make you more confident in the Packers?
More confident. More confident?
Okay, here we go.
I'm not more confident. I'm less confident. I'm less confident.
What was that?
I'm less confident in my Packers.
Okay.
I mean, this is
I
the
didn't
fourth.
expect
Look, I'll take the win.
Yeah.
They are stacking wins. All right, that
Okay.
matters.
Yes.
4-1-1. They lead their division, which we know is a tough division. But this is the fourth straight week where I don't think they've looked great. They looked great the first 2 weeks of the season,
Yes.
Green Bay, Washington. They haven't really looked that good since then. Now, it's early, and I have full faith that they can get to a point where they look great because the defense, Michael was great yesterday, 3 sacks. They had 6 sacks total. And Jordan Love, J-Lo, was okay. I mean, he wasn't, he didn't do anything spectacular. I love this. On 4th and 2, with about 2.5 minutes left. Like, I think that's a gutsy throw because a lot of times you might just go for a little 4 or 5 yard pass. That's a 15-yard pass on the sidelines. Guys got to put his feet down. So I was impressed by that, but I want to see more from J-Lo. Greg and I were talking earlier. Whenever Jaden Reed gets back, Christian Watson comes back, that's bolstering the receiving core. I was impressed with Josh Jacobs' hard running. Didn't get a lot of yards per attempt, but ran the ball hard, scored some touchdowns. So I still feel very good about them because it's early, but they haven't played great in a month.
Just real quick, and I'll give it to Greg. I literally wrote down, the 4th down worked, so I'm sure Brew loved it. Like the 4th down. No, the play.
The play, I thought just
Jordan Love's
excellent.
play on it was excellent.
Yeah.
I do feel like if that doesn't work, you're very mad at Matt LaFleur. I happen to think that is a spot way more coaches should go for it because down 3 with 2.5 minutes left, if you kick a field goal, what you're saying is, we just hope to get to overtime.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
As opposed to going for it, you can drain more clock like they did and take the lead. So
Is that the play where J-Lo said,
yes, they called out the field goal unit, they called timeout, and then they went for it. So I thought that was great. And listen, I think Micah's been better than his sack numbers up to this game. His pressure numbers have been crazy.
Right, yeah.
He was the best player on the field in this game by a wide margin. And it was pretty remarkable to me that Brissett had as productive of a game as he did statistically, given what Micah was doing. But I'm kind of with Brew, Greg, in that I have been pretty nonplussed by the offense. And because of that, I'm not more confident in the Packers.
Yes, I'm with you guys. Everything offensively looks hard-earned. Yeah. It looks like it's just challenging. And they're having to grind out points and even just to move the ball at times. Mm-hmm. And to your point, we talked about this. I truly believe it has a lot to do with the fact that Jaden Reed is not in this offense, and he's led this offense in receiving yards the last 2 years. And I think we overlooked that, but we highlighted with other teams like the Chiefs or like you mentioned earlier with CeeDee Lamb, with the Cowboys. It's important when you have that type of chemistry with a quarterback, which Jaden has with Jordan, and the dynamic changes offensively. I think we oversight that because we have an expectation of Jordan Love to be better. But defensively is where I'm starting to scratch my head a little bit because offensively, I don't mind the struggles. Defensively, it's when you add a player like Micah, and the way they came out to start the season in the first couple weeks, it was like, I don't know if they're going to give up a lot of points at all for the course of the season. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not only are they giving up points, but they can't get off the field. Yep. So you're just compounding issues, and if this continues to happen, your offense stalls at times.
No, that's fair.
I'm confident because they know how to win, and they have been able to win. Am I more confident? I'm not more confident. Wow. But when Jaden gets back, which he will later in the season.
The defense should be more dominant than Micah was great, but letting the Cardinals with Jacoby
they were
up and
moving
the
the ball.
That's what's making me scratch my head.
Jacoby Brissett played really well. It's okay. That happens sometimes. I get it. Especially these seasoned veteran quarterbacks, even when they're backups, whether it's the Flaccos of the world, the Jacoby Brissetts of the world, obviously very different careers. This Cardinals team always had the potential to be a lot better than it showed. And listen, I don't think the Cardinals are this big special team. I've talked about that before. I wasn't sold on them as much as last year, as like Colin started really talking them up, and a couple other people who I really respect in the comment section. They were higher on the Cardinals, and with Kyler Murray, it was just a little bit harder for me to get there because Kyler Murray individually shows the potential to either give you one of the most spectacular plays you've ever seen, or kind of like, how would you ever want this quarterback to be your quarterback for the long term? And Jacoby Brissett just adds a lot of consistency there and a different style of play that I asked this question yesterday. If someone can help me out here, when was Jacoby Brissett named the starting quarterback? I tried to look it up, but it's a little bit harder to try to find that stuff out once the game has already happened, because if I search Jacoby Brissett Cardinals, it's just all the present stuff. It's hard to find the stuff before, because sometimes that really affects how a defense is going to game plan, and what the approach is going to be, especially if it's not announced until it's a little bit later. Listen, the Packers did that. They tried to do that whole song and dance last season with is Jordan Love going to start? Is he not? Are we putting in our backup? And we had a whole conversation about that, because Dan Orlovsky was talking about. They're like, I don't really think Jordan Love's actually going to play in this game. I forget what game it was. I think it was the first or second game that Jordan Love missed at that time, and they had a whole conversation about it. And so I think there's some of that, but like I said, Jacoby Brissett, is a seasoned veteran. He's going to step up in moments like this, and he's going to be able to put together a couple games or two. He's going to be able to do that, and that's what we saw here for the most part. I mean, the defense was out there for a lot, 70 plays compared to the Packers 53. It's a pretty big gap. It's nearly 20 plays. 3 for 10 on third down compared to 7 for 14 on third down. Time of possession 34 minutes to 25. 34 to 26 essentially. I look at little things like this, and I shouldn't say little because they're huge to me. These penalties. It's games like this, again, going up against a backup quarterback. You gave them 5 first downs from penalties. 5. That's a chunk. That is a chunk. They had 23 first downs, and 5 of them came from penalties. And, when you're giving up nearly a whole football field worth of penalties, not the best. And I find that, like, those are the things that are so much easier at cleaning up, rather than saying, hey, we got to generate more pressure, we got to get our offense going, and dealing with some injuries. It's like, yeah, all that stuff is obviously real, and things that a team needs to kind of deal with throughout the course of a season. But like penalties like this, it just always irks me. It will always irk me, because it matters so much. And we live in an NFL world now where we talk so much about don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. Right now, it's very popular. Don't turn the ball over and don't get sacks, for quarterbacks specifically, obviously. And it's like, don't turn the ball over and get sacks, and you're gonna win the vast majority of their games. Seemingly is the prevailing philosophy. And I just think penalties are significantly under-discussed. And listen, sometimes penalties make sense, because sometimes it's your defense is getting after it. You're pushing it to the limit. Like, sometimes it's almost a problem if you don't have any penalties, and it's like, well, then you're not going hard enough, specifically defensively. You're not pushing it to the limit. You're not really going as hard as you should be, and you need to be flirting with a flag here and there. You need to let the team, let the opposing offense know, like, you are there. And like, sometimes that's the case. Now, I don't think that was the case, at least specifically in this game. And I just think that there's no reason to be more or less confident in the Packers right now. And it's funny because, I can flip-flop for what I'm looking for in a game. And anytime you have seemingly a little bit more random games, like the Packers versus the Cardinals, and I mean random in the sense of, like, the Cardinals aren't a complete disaster. They're not a great team either. It's not the Lions, it's not the Eagles, it's not the Chiefs, it's not the Bills. It's not a team that we know, okay, This is a real matchup right now. It's also not a team that's like the Cleveland Browns where you're like, what even is this? And although obviously the Packers struggle with the Cleveland Browns. And so the Cardinals are, especially in a game like this, it's like, okay, what can I see? And I think going into this game, I was like, I want to see a really convincing win. I want to see an easy win, a straightforward win, really simple, nothing too crazy. But then you do get a game like this, like I said, with Jacoby Brissett, who played really, really well, and things were a little bit more difficult for the Packers. But yeah, Jacoby Brissett go 25 for 36, 279 yards, 7.8 yards per attempt, and 2 touchdowns. It was obviously sacked 6 times, but a 110 passer rating. Like on the surface, and I'm not saying I feel this way, but like on the surface, you would say Jacoby Brissett played better than Jordan Love, blah, 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 blah. Which is why, you always got to be careful with just looking at box scores. But in hindsight, when I look at a game and I see how this unfolded, you're like, you know what? The Packers showed a lot of resiliency here. They showed their ability to be resilient. And in a weird way, as much as going into this game, I was like, I want to see a big convincing win against a team that's not really playing all that well. In hindsight, I almost learned more about them here. Being able to win a tougher, weirder game, and they didn't roll over. I mean, this team went from saying we're going to go undefeated, they were really feeling themselves, and understandably so, to then having a couple tough losses. And now you're in a game like this. And I'm sure the Packers, in their mindset, this team, they're thinking, Jacoby Brissett, Arizona Cardinals, man, like, we got this. And then that's not the way how this game was unfolding. And I do think we take for granted sometimes how sometimes teams just, like, they can't either hit the reset button in terms of their mentality as the game is unfolding, or they just can't get beyond themselves in that moment, and things just don't pan out, right? Like it was a little bit of that sense against the Browns a little bit, where it was just like, this game shouldn't be the way this is going right now. And that is kind of what was happening with the Cardinals. And yet they still took care of business. They still needed to do what they needed to do. And I think that matters. Again, if this was a team like a team that had been together for a while and is really established, if this was the Buffalo Bills, Philadelphia Eagles, Kansas City Chiefs, even the Detroit Lions, which I'm sure Packers love to be compared to, then the silver lining wouldn't be as strong for me. But considering what the Packers are dealing with in terms of their receiving core, just the fact that Jordan Love is still full on being developed right now. He's still growing and evolving as a quarterback. I'm content with this win. I'm happy with this win. I don't think there needs to be panic mode and kind of like what you see with Brew, where he's just like, I'm concerned here. I think the Packers have shown that on any given Sunday, they can hang with anyone and they can beat anyone. Have they proven to be like, yo, we are the team to beat, come see us? No, they have not. And quite frankly, I don't know how many teams are like that right now. Now, I will say this, and I'll end here. There is a lack of intensity that the Packers play with. That much to me is very, very clear. There's just a lack of intensity. When you look at a team like the Lions, again, it's hard to use the Lions as a reference point, but like, they play with intensity. You could see it. The Eagles don't always play with intensity. The Chiefs against the Raiders played with great intensity. The Broncos, not always. In the fourth quarter, they're like, okay, let's do it. In quarters 1 through 3, no. The Giants, and who aren't this great team, play with such intensity. So right now, the Packers, they're lacking that intensity. Although in the beginning of the season, they did have more against the Lions. They came out just ready to go. They were so fired up, and then they seemingly lost a little bit of that. And you would like to see the Packers regain that. That is something that is to note, where it's just like, where's the intensity? And a little bit of that is on Matt LaFleur, which is so fascinating because Matt LaFleur is such an intense guy, but he is part of his resume so far. On my personal experiences, I've seen more times than I would have thought for someone. And again, I think LaFleur is an awesome coach, top coach in the NFL. But more times than I would have thought or anticipated, it felt like he did not have this team ready to play. And I didn't mean over seasons, not this specific year. And like, that throws me off. And I'm not entirely sure why, because every time I listen to him, every time I watch him, there's like, I can't see why that would ever be the case. Why, like, how that could be the case. But I do think that is something, like, to me, that matters more than some of these other little things, like, just in terms of how much do you need to win by in order for you to be impressed or more. Like, if they beat the Cardinals by a lot, if they beat the Cardinals, I don't know, 35-24, are you now more confident in the Packers? I guess, like, that's also the point that I'm trying to drive home now. Are you more confident in the Packers now? Right? Like, that they're really Super Bowl contenders because what they did to Jacoby Brissett, and I think the offense will get better once they get healthier, once they get more in sync. That'll keep the defense fresher because the defense can't get off the field, as Greg pointed out. And I just think they'll be able to play more complete complementary football, and they just haven't been able to do so right now. So I don't think it's panic mode at all, honestly. I still think there's a lot to like, and they're still working on their levels of consistency and resiliency, which again makes sense because I think, as Colin always points out, they're still like the youngest team in the NFL, youngest or first or second youngest. Like, that stuff does matter. That absolutely positively does matter. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think are you more or less confident in the Packers after their game versus the Cardinals? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.